The 1980s gave us some of the boldest, most experimental cartoons in television history. But for every hit like Transformers or He-Man, there were shows that barely had a chance to grow. These are the animated gems that sparked imaginations, pushed boundaries, and vanished too soon. Here are 12 insanely underrated 80s cartoons that deserved far more time to shine. Number 12, Galaxy High School, 1986. In a decade ruled by robots and barbarian warriors, Galaxy High School did something stranger. It sent two Earth teens into deep space and enrolled them in an alien high school. The twist was brilliant. Doyle, the cool jock, became a nobody. Amy, the nerd, blossomed into the most popular girl on campus. The show flipped high school tropes with intergalactic flair. Its alien classmates were unforgettable. A kid with detachable limbs, a floating brain with an ego, teachers that resembled squid or vegetables, and the humor was sharp. Galaxy High satirized cliques, popularity, and even dating culture through a cosmic lens. It had an opening theme that you still hear in the heads of Gen X fans to this day. Produced with help from Tokyo Movie Shinsha, the animation was slick and expressive. Each episode carried a lesson without being preachy. But despite its unique charm, Galaxy High lasted only 13 episodes. It was simply too weird, too clever, and maybe too ahead of its time for American broadcasters. What makes it sting is that the creators had mapped out more stories. Viewers wanted to see Doyle and Amy's romance develop or follow side characters into their own arcs. Instead, it faded away while lesser cartoons survived. Galaxy High School remains a short-lived space-age treasure. Number 11, The Adventures of the Galaxy Rangers, 1986. Imagine a show where cowboys wear cybernetic implants, battle alien empires, and travel through wormholes. That was The Adventures of the Galaxy Rangers. It was a space western with no laugh track, no comic relief sidekick, and no reset button. Heroes could die, missions could fail, and villains were genuinely terrifying. Each Galaxy Ranger had a bioenhancement tied to their personality. Zachary Fox had a robotic arm fueled by vengeance. Shane Gooseman was a genetically engineered renegade with Wolverine energy. Nico used psychic powers, and Doc Hartford commanded tech with voice-activated commands. Together, they were agents of the Bureau, fighting for justice in a lawless galaxy. The animation quality was miles ahead of most syndicated shows of its time. There were serialized story arcs, character growth, and even moments of grief and consequence. It treated its young audience with rare respect. But networks wanted slapstick. Merchandisers wanted more toys, and by the end of 65 episodes, it was gone. There were plans for a second season. Viewers still write fan fiction and tribute videos decades later. The show's deep world-building and cyber-western edge should have guaranteed longevity. Instead, the Galaxy Rangers rode off into the stars and never came back. Number 10, Spiral Zone, 1987. It begins with a post-apocalyptic vision. Half the world has fallen into a trance. People shuffle like zombies under a red haze. Only 5 Zone Riders stand between humanity and total domination. Spiral Zone is a cartoon that played like a science fiction thriller, and it was absolutely not made for toddlers. The villains, known as the Black Widows, use zone generators to enslave entire cities. Their leader, Overlord, was a military defector turned madman. His team was terrifying. They laughed through gas masks, rode biomechanical beasts, and spread misery like a disease. The heroes wore protective suits and carried heavy emotional burdens. Unlike other cartoons, Spiral Zone had psychological weight. Episodes tackled trauma, self-doubt, and loss. The characters were scarred literally and emotionally. Animation was provided by Japanese studio Visual 80, giving it an eerie polish. This show looked better than most of its time slot competitors and felt heavier than anything on air. But the darkness scared advertisers. Only 65 episodes were produced, and there was no resolution to the war. It disappeared from syndication and became a cult footnote. Fans today still discuss how it predicted global mind control and emotional manipulation. Spiral Zone deserved a full ending. Instead, it ended in silence. Number 9, Visionaries, Knights of the Magical Light, 1987. Imagine a future where technology collapses and magic returns to rule the world. Visionaries, Knights of the Magical Light brought that vision to life, with stunning animation, deep mythology, and a fantasy world that felt ancient and futuristic at the same time. On the planet, Prismos noble and evil knights wielded staffs that summoned animal totems representing their soul essence. The heroes were the spectral knights. The villains were the darkling lords. What set Visionaries apart was the way it blended Arthurian legend with science fiction ruins. The powers were poetic. Leoric summoned a lion totem. Darkstorm could unleash decay. These were not just powers, they were metaphors for character. Backed by Hasbro and animated by Japan's TMS studio, the show had the look of a theatrical feature. The writing included betrayal, courage, sacrifice, and themes of balance between technology and nature. But despite its ambition, only 13 episodes were ever made. Why did it end so quickly? Toy sales were soft. Competing lines like Transformers and G.I. Joe dominated store shelves, and Visionaries was considered too complicated for younger kids. Still, it has endured through comics fan fiction and modern reappraisals. It is a rare cartoon that treated its viewers as thinkers and dreamers. Visionaries deserved a second season and more time to explore its magical post-technological world. Instead, it vanished like a spell undone. Number 8. Inhumanoids, 1986. What if Lovecraftian monsters crawled up from the earth and waged war against humanity? That was the terrifying premise of Inhumanoids. Unlike other 80s cartoons, this one was unapologetically grotesque. It featured melting faces, monstrous biology, and scenes of destruction that bordered on horror. The Earth Corps were a team of armored scientists tasked with stopping the Inhumanoids, 3 massive beasts, each more disturbing than the last. Metlar was a lava demon with rage issues. Tendril was a plant horror with regrowth powers. Decompose was an undead nightmare who could zombify humans with one touch. His skeletal face became an icon of 80s fear. Despite being packaged as a toy line, the show went deep. It had military conspiracies, ancient civilizations, body horror, and even episodes that flirted with death and trauma. Its tone was closer to a horror movie than a kid's show. That was its undoing. Parents panicked. Stations pulled it from afternoon blocks. Only 13 episodes were produced. Yet those 13 episodes became legendary. Fans still debate whether it was too intense or exactly what 80s cartoons needed, something brave enough to be scary. Inhumanoids pushed every boundary. It showed kids that not all monsters were misunderstood. Some were evil incarnate. And that made it unforgettable. Number 7. Jayce and the Wheeled Warriors, 1985. Jayce and the Wheeled Warriors was not just about battling plant monsters. It was about a boy searching for his father across a galaxy scarred by war. The show fused science fiction adventure and family drama into something far deeper than the toy line suggested. Jayce was the son of a botanist whose experiments with plant life went wrong. The result? The monster minds. Sentient biomechanical vines led by the sinister Saw Boss. Jayce formed the Lightning League to stop them, armed with transforming vehicles and guided by the mystical Gillian, a wizard-like mentor. What made the show stand out was its surprising emotional core. Each episode followed the crew as they chased rumors of Jayce's missing father. They encountered ruins, failed colonies, haunted machines, and moral dilemmas. The animation was vibrant, the music unforgettable, and the storytelling often poetic. But here's the tragedy. The show never ended. No finale was made. Fans waited for closure that never came. Despite strong international viewership and plans for a film, it was canceled before any resolution. Jayce and the Wheeled Warriors was more than a commercial. It was a space epic cut off mid-sentence, and it remains one of the greatest unfinished journeys in cartoon history. Number 6. Bionic 6, 1987. What if a family of everyday people suddenly became Earth's most advanced cybernetic heroes? That was the core of Bionic 6, a brilliant mix of family dynamics, science fiction, and colorful action that stood apart from its 80s competition. This was not a team thrown together by fate. It was a real family with real personalities. Jack Bennett was the father and secret agent known as Bionic 1. His wife and 4 adopted children were all gifted with bionic enhancements after a fateful mission. Each character had distinct powers tied to personality. Sport 1 was super strong. Rock 1 had sonic speed. IQ had super intellect. Mother 1 could mentally interface with machines. Together, they were not just a fighting force, they were a household. What made Bionic 6 special was not just the action, though the fight scenes were beautifully animated. It was the emotional weight. Episodes explored parenting, teamwork, identity, and the struggles of being different. There were quiet moments around the dinner table just as often as battles with alien threats. The show was animated by TMS in Japan, giving it a polished, vibrant look that surpassed most Saturday morning fare. But it never got the merchandising push it needed. Without strong toy sales, it was quietly dropped after just 2 seasons. Today, Bionic 6 feels like a precursor to modern superhero families like The Incredibles. It proved that heart and hardware could coexist, and that fighting evil was even more powerful when done as a family. Number 5. Dungeons and Dragons, 1983 to 1985. Few cartoons have left a deeper impact, despite ending without closure, than Dungeons and Dragons. Based on the role-playing game, the series followed 6 kids who were pulled into a magical world after a theme park ride gone wrong. Each received a magical item and a role: ranger, acrobat, cavalier, barbarian, thief, and wizard. But this was no cheerful fantasy. The realm was haunted by terror. The villain Venger was a fallen sorcerer, cloaked in darkness. The kids were constantly hunted, manipulated, and forced to grow up fast. They were mentored by the cryptic dungeon master, a wise figure who gave guidance but never full answers. What made the show revolutionary was its maturity. It showed consequences. The kids doubted themselves. They fought among each other. They learned painful lessons. In one episode, they nearly turned evil themselves. And always they were trying to get home. That goal, that ache, grounded the fantasy in something real. The animation by Marvel Productions was bold and stylized. The voice cast included Adam Rich and Willie Ames. Ratings were strong. Fans begged for a finale. A script titled Requiem was written to end their journey, but it was never produced. Dungeons and Dragons ended not with a bang, but with a silent cliffhanger. And yet it has lived on in hearts, comics, games, and legacy. It remains the gold standard of how to do fantasy right, even if the final portal was never opened. Number 4. Mighty Orbots, 1984. There are forgotten shows, and then there is Mighty Orbots, a spectacular one-season wonder that combined Japanese anime flair with American superhero charm. It featured a team of robotic heroes who combined into a massive super robot to protect the galaxy from a dark organization called Shadow. Led by the human commander Rob Simmons, the Orbots were 6 distinct robot personalities with humor, heart, and high energy. There was the brainy Crunch, the strongman Bort, the cheerful twins Bo and Boo, the shape-shifting Ono, and the powerful Tor. When combined, they formed a robot warrior whose design rivaled even the biggest names in mecha anime. The animation by TMS was jaw-droppingly fluid. Action scenes were cinematic. Comedy beats landed perfectly. Even today, its visuals feel fresh. The show struck a balance between heroic adventure and warm comedy, something rare in robot-centric series. But Mighty Orbots was doomed not by ratings, but by legal battles. Tonka sued, claiming it was too close to their GoBots line. Though the case lacked merit, the legal pressure and merchandising limitations sank the show. Only 13 episodes aired. Mighty Orbots was a bright spark that vanished before it could catch fire. It deserved Toys comics, spin-offs, and seasons of galactic glory. Instead, it stands as a gleaming artifact of what could have been. Number 3. Pole Position, 1984. Pole Position was one of those rare 80s cartoons that blended high-tech racing with spy intrigue and family bonds. Loosely inspired by the arcade game, the show followed siblings Tess and Dan Darrett, who worked undercover for a government agency. Their cover? Traveling stunt drivers in a racing show. Their real mission? Stop criminals using futuristic AI-powered vehicles. The cars were the stars. Rhodey and Wheels were talking supercars loaded with gadgets, attitude, and humor. Imagine Knight Rider, but with two sarcastic voices and the occasional mid-air flip. The tech was dazzling, but the emotional heart was just as strong. The siblings looked after their younger sister Daisy and her pet Kuma, adding warmth to the high-octane danger. Episodes combined action suspense and emotional stakes. Chase scenes turned into moral dilemmas. Missions tested loyalty and courage. The show balanced light banter with moments of real peril, and the animation quality remained consistently crisp throughout the series. But Pole Position lacked a major toy line and aired in a crowded market of louder, flashier shows. Only 13 episodes were produced. It came and went with little fanfare, yet fans remember it as one of the coolest short-lived series of the decade. Pole Position had everything: family dynamics, car stunts, secret missions, and talking machines. All it needed was time. Instead, it stalled at the starting line of greatness. Number 2. Brave Star, 1987 to 1988. Brave Star was a revelation, a cartoon that dared to blend the space western genre with Native American mythology and bold social commentary. Set on the desert planet of New Texas, it followed Marshall Brave Star, a lawman with mystical powers derived from spirit animals: strength of the bear, speed of the puma, eyes of the hawk, ears of the wolf. His sidekick was 3030, a talking techno-horse who wielded a blunderbuss and walked on two legs. The villain was Tex Hex, a ghostly outlaw empowered by dark energy. The stakes were high, and the tone was surprisingly adult. Brave Star tackled issues unheard of in cartoons. One episode dealt with a child overdosing on drugs. Another featured gun violence and justice. It asked hard questions about authority prejudice and cultural heritage. And it never talked down to its audience. The animation was cinematic. The writing was layered. But Brave Star launched just as the toy-driven cartoon era was collapsing. Mattel's toy line underperformed. Syndication slots dried up. After one season and a feature film, the show vanished. Brave Star was more than a cartoon. It was a cultural lightning bolt that dared to take animation seriously. And it ended before it could lead a revolution. Number 1. The Centurions, 1986. Power Extreme. That was the battle cry of the Centurions, a series that fused man and machine into one of the most promising action cartoons of the 80s. The premise was electrifying. 3 men with specialized combat suits could fuse with modular weapon systems beaming down from a space station to fight terrorism on Earth. Max Ray ruled the seas. Jake Rockwell dominated the land. Ace McCloud soared through the skies. Their mission: stop the techno-terrorist Doc Terror and his cyborg army from enslaving humanity. The series was filled with fast-paced battles, futuristic tech, and heroic teamwork. But beneath the surface, it also explored themes of identity and dependence on technology. The Centurions were enhanced, but still human. Their tech came with consequences. They struggled with self-doubt, fear, and the burden of being humanity's last defense. The animation was crisp. The toy line was inventive. But inconsistent marketing and limited episodes killed its momentum. A second season was hinted at, but never realized. Only 65 episodes were made. The Centurions had the tools, the concept, and the heart to go the distance. Instead, it became a legend of wasted potential. A battle cry that echoed, then fell silent. These 12 cartoons were more than just shows. They were bold experiments with heart and vision. But the industry moved too fast, and these gems got buried beneath louder franchises. Today, they remain cult classics, whispering to those who remember. Which one do you think deserved a second chance? Let us know.